What if you could legally live and work in another country in 2026 for years without returning to the US? What if a small investment or a simple permit could give you a path to permanent residency? Today, we're breaking down the top 10 countries Americans are choosing to move to. While you are at it, please click like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below. And exactly how each one handles visa-free stays, remote work legality, residency permits, and long-term life abroad, without confusing legal jargon. This video will tell you how long you can stay visa-free, where you can apply for residency without leaving the country, which paths lead almost automatically to permanent residency, where you need specific investments, business activity, or income, how to extend your stay beyond the initial period. If you've ever thought, maybe life outside the US is for me, you'll want to watch this all the way through. Number 10, Georgia, the country, not the state. Georgia, the Eurasian nation between Europe and Asia, has quietly become one of the most expat-friendly destinations for Americans. Americans can stay in Georgia visa-free for up to 365 days, the longest visa-free stay in the world for U.S. citizens. Yes, 1 full year without a visa. However, Georgia does not yet have a formal remote work visa with paperwork. Instead, expats often rely on the 1-year visa-free stay to live and work remotely, since there are no explicit laws forbidding remote work as long as you're not employed by a Georgian company without proper authorization. This is huge compared to countries that give only 90 days. Yes, Georgia allows Americans to apply for temporary residency from within Georgia after the initial visa-free period. Common routes: work permit plus residency, self-employment/freelancer declaration, business registration in Georgia. Once you register a business in Georgia, even a small one, you can apply for residence based on business activity without having to return to the U.S. This sets Georgia apart from many countries that require you to leave and re-enter just to change visa status. Georgia's residency system has 2 beneficial features: temporary residency after the visa-free year, long-term residency after a few years of legal status. Once you hold temporary residency, often renewed yearly, you may apply for permanent residency, provided you maintain legal status and meet basic requirements. Georgia also has a program called Gold Residency for investors, usually requiring a higher investment in business or real estate, which can speed up long-term settlement. Georgia is known as very affordable. Rent outside Tbilisi, $300, $700/month. Rent inside Tbilisi, $700, $500/month. Groceries, dining, services, significantly cheaper than the U.S. Georgia also offers stunning nature, safety, and a welcoming culture for international residents. If your 12-month visa-free stay ends, you can convert to temporary residency while inside Georgia, start a small business, and apply for residency directly. Request extensions through standard immigration channels. Georgia's flexibility makes it a real contender for Americans who want a long stay without complex bureaucracy. Next up, a Spanish-speaking favorite with permanent residency options and growing remote work visas. Number 9, Costa Rica. Americans can stay in Costa Rica visa-free for up to 90 days initially. This is shorter than Georgia's, but Costa Rica makes up for it in clarity, quality of life, and accessible residency paths. Costa Rica introduced a digital nomad visa that lets remote workers live there for up to 1 year, initial, renewable for an additional period. Requirements typically include proof of remote income, often around $3,000 per month, but this varies with family size. This makes Costa Rica much more explicit about remote work legality than Georgia. Yes, you can apply for certain residency visas from within Costa Rica. The most common route is Rentista visa, proof of stable income or bank deposits. Pensionado visa, for retirees with stable pension income. You typically enter visa-free for 90 days, then apply for temporary residency from inside the country. You do not need to leave for the initial residency application. Temporary residency is the first step. Once you hold temporary residency for 3 years, you are eligible for permanent residency. Costa Rica does not require abandonment of U.S. citizenship. Dual citizenship is permitted once you naturalize. Costa Rica uses a territorial tax system, meaning you're taxed on income earned within Costa Rica, but often not on income you earn abroad. As a U.S. citizen, you still must file U.S. taxes, but double taxation agreements and territorial rules can reduce overlap. Costa Rica is moderately priced. Rent, not in big tourist zones, $600 to $1,200 per month. Healthcare, public system plus affordable private options. Groceries/dining, slightly lower than U.S. averages. Popular expat areas include Grecia, Atenas, and parts of Guanacaste. You extend by Reitero applying for temporary residency after 90 days. Reitero renewing digital nomad status yearly. Reitero eventually qualifying for permanent residency after 3 years. Costa Rica is a practical long-term favorite for many Americans. Next up, a European gem that gives Americans a clear EU route via small investment and has one of the best dual citizenship policies, coming right up. Number 8. Georgia EU Treaty and Business Route. This is a special European option worth its own spotlight because of the unique opportunity it provides Americans in 2026. As mentioned, Georgia stands out with 12 months visa-free, longer than almost anywhere. But beyond that, Georgia offers a special EU-friendly path through business investment. In 2023 to 2026, Georgia expanded options for foreign entrepreneurs. Americans with an investment of approximately €4,500 in a heavy checkmark Georgian small business. Heavy checkmark licensed operation in Georgia. Heavy checkmark legit commercial activity. Can become eligible for temporary residency based on business contribution. This is not a golden visa in the traditional sense, but it functions similarly. You can apply from inside Georgia. You can renew residency yearly. You don't need to return to the U.S. once your initial stay begins. It can lead to permanent residency if maintained. For many Americans, this is one of the most accessible business-to-residency pathways in Europe. Georgia hasn't codified a digital nomad permit yet, but remote work is widely accepted for people living with a business or freelance arrangement under residency status. This avoids the gray area you see in countries that allow visa-free stays without stating remote work rules. Georgia allows dual citizenship, meaning you can eventually become a Georgian citizen without renouncing U.S. citizenship. This makes Georgia one of the most flexible long-term options. Already covered in the Georgia section above, but to recap, very affordable overall, lower than most EU countries, strong quality of life in expat hubs. Once the 12-month visa-free period ends, apply for temporary residency via business or self-employment. Continue annual renewals. Move toward permanent residency. This business investment option is one reason Georgia ranks so high on lists of global relocation destinations for Americans. So far, we've covered countries that give Americans unusually long visa-free stays and flexible residency options, including Georgia's 1-year stay and Costa Rica's path to permanent residency. Now we're moving into countries that offer stronger legal clarity, EU access, or treaty-based advantages specifically for Americans. Some of these are surprisingly underused. Others are extremely popular, but misunderstood. Let's keep going. Number 7. Panama. Panama is often called one of the easiest countries in the world for Americans to move to legally, and that reputation is mostly deserved. But there are important details people miss. U.S. passport holders can stay in Panama visa-free for up to 180 days. That alone already beats the typical 90-day rule most countries enforce. Panama has a digital nomad visa, officially called the short-stay visa for remote workers. This allows legal remote work, up to 9 months initially, possible extension. However, and this is important, many Americans don't even need it because Panama offers something better. Panama's Friendly Nations visa is one of the most powerful residency tools available to Americans. Why? Because the U.S. is on the approved list. With this visa, you can apply for residency from inside Panama. You only need a local bank account plus economic ties. Economic ties can include remote work, owning a company, professional services, small business activity. No massive investment required. The Friendly Nations visa gives you temporary residency first, then eligibility for permanent residency after a set period. Once you reach permanent residency, you no longer need to renew yearly. Panama has a territorial tax system. That means income earned outside Panama is generally not taxed locally. U.S. citizens still file U.S. taxes, but Panama won't double tax foreign income in most cases. This makes Panama extremely attractive for remote workers, business owners, investors, dividend earners. Panama is very flexible depending on lifestyle. Outside Panama City, $900 to $1,500 per month. In Panama City, $1,500 to $2,500 per month. Healthcare is high quality and affordable. You can enter visa-free. Apply for friendly nations residency from inside Panama. Transition to permanent residency later. Panama is not a temporary dead end, it's a long-term base. Next, a European country with one of the clearest paths to permanent residency, and a favorite for Americans who want the EU without giving up flexibility. Number 6. Spain. Spain is one of the most searched relocation destinations for Americans, but many people misunderstand how staying legally actually works. Let's clear it up. Americans can stay in Spain 90 days within any 180-day period under Schengen rules. Remote work on a tourist stay is not legally permitted, even if enforcement varies. But Spain now offers a better solution. Spain introduced a digital nomad visa that allows legal remote work, initial residency for up to 1 year, renewals that can lead to long-term residency. Income requirements apply, but this visa explicitly legalizes remote work, no gray area. Apply from inside Spain? Yes, and this is a big deal. Americans can enter Spain visa-free. Apply for the digital nomad visa from inside Spain. This avoids the costly and frustrating requirement of returning to the U.S. just to apply. Spain offers a clear progression. Temporary residency. Long-term residency after several years. Eligibility for permanent residency. Spain does not force Americans to renounce U.S. citizenship unless pursuing Spanish citizenship itself. Spain taxes worldwide income once you're a tax resident. However, special tax regimes may apply for new residents. Planning matters, especially for high earners. Spain is better suited for people who value lifestyle, EU access, and stability, not zero-tax strategies. Spain remains affordable by Western Europe standards. Smaller cities, $1,000 to $1,600 per month. Major cities, $1,800 to $2,800 per month. Public health care included after residency. Apply for digital nomad residency from inside Spain. Renew residency. Transition to long-term or permanent residency. Spain is not a dead end, but it requires planning. Coming up next, a country that quietly gives Americans special EU residency rights through a treaty most people have never heard of. Number 5. France. The U.S. France Treaty Advantage. France surprises many Americans, not because it's easy, but because it has special rules just for U.S. citizens. Americans can stay 90 days visa-free in France like the rest of Schengen. But here's where France becomes unique. France has a bilateral treaty with the United States that allows Americans to apply for certain residency permits more easily, register as self-employed or business owners, qualify for long-stay residency with modest investment. This is where the €4,500 small business route often applies. By registering a small business, demonstrating active economic participation, making a modest capital investment, Americans can apply for residency permits that are much harder for other nationalities to obtain. Apply from inside France? In many cases, yes, Americans can. Enter legally. Apply for long-stay or residency permits. Avoid returning to the U.S. for initial steps. This is not guaranteed for every visa type, but Americans have more flexibility than most. France offers temporary residency, long-term residency after several years, eligibility for permanent residency. Dual citizenship is allowed if you later naturalize. France allows remote work only with proper residency authorization. Tourist stays are not legal for remote work. France taxes worldwide income, but treaty provisions prevent double taxation. Planning matters, especially for business owners. France varies widely. Smaller cities, $1,200 to $1,800 per month. Paris, $2,500 plus. Healthcare quality is among the best in the world. Convert visa-free stay into long-term residency. Use treaty advantages. Renew and transition toward permanent residency. France is bureaucratic, but very stable once you're in. Number 4. Canada. Canada is one of the first places Americans think of when they consider leaving the U.S. familiar culture, strong economy, high quality of life. But here's the truth most people don't realize. Americans can stay in Canada up to 6 months visa-free. That's one of the longest visa-free stays Americans get anywhere in the developed world. But, and this is critical, visa-free does not mean work permitted. Remote work in Canada while on a visitor status is legally unclear and risky. Canada generally expects no work for Canadian entities, no economic participation inside Canada. Even remote work for foreign companies can become an issue if you're physically based there long-term. Apply for residency from inside Canada? Sometimes, but not easily. Canada prefers outside-the-country applications for express entry, skilled worker programs, provincial nominee programs. There are limited pathways that allow in-country transitions, but most Americans enter as visitors, must leave to finalize residency paperwork. This surprises a lot of people. Canada does lead to permanent residency, but you usually need skilled work experience, or Canadian employer sponsorship, or strong education plus language scores. Canada is not a passive residency country. If you qualify, it's excellent. If you don't, it becomes a dead end very fast. Canada is expensive. Smaller cities, $1,800 to $2,500 per month. Major cities, $2,800 to $4,000 per month. Housing is the biggest challenge. You can apply to extend visitor status, but extensions do not give work rights. Long-term stay requires formal residency approval. Canada rewards planners, not wanderers. Next, a country with long stays, incredible lifestyle appeal, and strict gatekeeping that catches many Americans off guard. Number 3, Australia. Australia feels like the perfect mix. English-speaking, warm climate, strong economy. But staying long-term is harder than it looks. Americans can stay 90 days visa-free. That's relatively short and strictly enforced. Remote work on a tourist stay is not legal in Australia. Australia is very clear. No work, no business activity, no remote employment. Even casual online work can be a violation. Apply from inside Australia? Mostly no. Australia generally requires visa applications from outside the country. Offshore processing. Some temporary visas allow limited transitions, but Americans should assume you'll need to leave to apply. Australia offers permanent residency, but it's competitive. You usually need skilled occupation, points-based approval, employer sponsorship. Australia favors young professionals, in-demand skills, long-term workforce contributors. It is not friendly to passive income or remote-only lifestyles. Australia is costly. Smaller cities, $2,000 to $2,800 per month. Major cities, $3,000 to $4,500 per month. Healthcare is excellent, but residency-linked. Visitor extensions are limited. Australia expects clarity. Tourist, student, skilled worker. There's little gray area. Australia is amazing, but not flexible. Next, a country Americans love for culture, safety, and lifestyle, and one that recently changed the rules in a way most people haven't noticed yet. Number 2, Japan. Japan has quietly become one of the most interesting countries for Americans who want a safe, organized, long-term base. But it operates by very different rules. Americans can stay 90 days visa-free. This can sometimes be extended once, but it's not guaranteed. Japan has traditionally been strict. Remote work on a tourist stay. Crossmark, not legally permitted. However, Japan has begun introducing new long-stay and digital-style visas, signaling a shift. This is a country in transition. Apply from inside Japan? In many cases, yes. Japan allows status changes from inside the country, conversions from tourist to residency in certain scenarios. This is a huge advantage compared to places like Australia. Japan does offer permanent residency, but it requires long-term legal stay, consistent income, tax compliance. It's slow, but reliable. Japan rewards stability, predictability, long-term commitment. Japan taxes worldwide income once you're a tax resident. However, new residents often receive temporary tax relief. Planning matters in early years. Japan is more affordable than many expect. Smaller cities, $1,200 to $1,800 per month. Tokyo, $2,000 to $3,000 per month. Healthcare is excellent and affordable. Convert status from inside Japan. Move into work, business, or long-term residency. Eventually qualify for permanent residency. Japan is not fast, but it is stable. We've now covered almost every major path Americans use to live abroad. But there's one country left. The country that gives Americans long stays, allows in-country residency applications, is affordable, is remote work-friendly, and quietly serves as a launchpad to the rest of the world. Next, we reveal number 1, and why it might be the smartest move for Americans in 2026. The one most Americans overlook. The one that quietly checks more boxes than any other. And the one that gives U.S. citizens a legal, repeatable, treaty-based path into Europe that almost no other nationality get. Number 1, the Netherlands. If you only remember one country from this entire video, make it this one. Not because it's the cheapest, not because it's the easiest, but because it gives Americans something no other EU country does. This is the Dutch-American Friendship Treaty, often called DAFT. It's a bilateral treaty between the U.S. and the Netherlands that gives American citizens a unique right to live and work in the EU. No point system, no age limit, no employer sponsorship, just Americans. The €4,500 EU residency path. Under this treaty, Americans can move to the Netherlands, open a small business or freelance activity, deposit about €4,500 into a Dutch business bank account, apply for residency from inside the country. This is not an investment visa. It's a treaty right, and it's one of the most powerful tools Americans have abroad. Americans can enter the Netherlands visa-free for 90 days under Schengen rules. But here's the key difference. You can apply for residency from inside the Netherlands during that period. No forced return to the U.S. Under DAFT, remote work is legal. Freelancing is legal. Running a small online business is legal. As long as you're registered properly and paying taxes, you're allowed to work. This makes the Netherlands one of the most remote worker-friendly countries in Europe for Americans specifically. Apply for residency from inside the country? Yes, and this is huge. You enter visa-free. Register locally. Apply under DAFT. Stay while it's processed. Very few countries allow this. The Netherlands is not a dead end. DAFT leads to temporary residency. Renewals every 2 years. Permanent residency after 5 years. And after that, EU long-term residency, or Dutch citizenship if you qualify. This part matters. The Netherlands generally does not allow dual citizenship. However, Americans who naturalize may be required to renounce U.S. citizenship. Permanent residency does not require renunciation. Many Americans choose permanent residency without becoming Dutch citizens. That still gives full legal residence, work rights, EU mobility advantages. Yes, taxes are real here. Once you're a resident, worldwide income is taxable. But the Netherlands offers tax planning tools. The Netherlands is mid to high cost. Smaller cities, $1,800 to $2,400 per month. Amsterdam, $2,800 to $3,800 per month. But public transport is excellent. Healthcare is top tier. English is widely spoken. You're paying for quality. Some newcomers qualify for temporary tax advantages. This is a country for people who want stability, infrastructure, strong legal protections, not tax avoidance, tax predictability. Under DAFT, renew every 2 years. Maintain your business activity. Keep the required funds. Stay compliant. It's straightforward if you follow the rules. Why the Netherlands is number 1 for Americans in 2026? Because it offers a treaty-based right, not a favor. In-country residency applications, legal remote work, a path to permanent residency, access to the EU, stability in an unstable world. This isn't hype. It's leverage. Here's the real question to leave you with. If Americans have one of the strongest passports on Earth, why are so many still trapped thinking they have no options? You don't need permission from influencers. You don't need loopholes. You need strategy. And now you know the map. Don't forget to subscribe on your way out. See you next video.